Prefer to listen on the go? Find the audio version of Katie Prentiss' Sunshine Soul wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Katie Prentiss, and this is Sunshine Soul. I remember flying out of Portland one gray morning. It had been raining for days. That kind of heavy, wet Pacific Northwest gray that just seeps into your bones. I had the window seat on the plane like always, and as we ascended, I watched the droplets race across the glass. The clouds outside were so thick, like walls, and for a moment it felt like the sun just didn't even exist anymore. And then we broke through, probably my favorite moment. The clouds fell away, and there it was, blue sky, bright light, the sun just sitting there like it had been the whole time. And it hit me in that moment. The sun is always shining, even when we can't see it. Here at Sunshine Soul, we hope, we heal, and we love despite the clouds. We remember that there's light ahead. Welcome to Sunshine Soul. Let's keep looking for the light together. So stepping into the acting world as a complete beginner challenged me in ways I didn't expect. I remember feeling similar things when I started my photography business, but that had been years ago and I hadn't done anything new like this in a long time. And nothing like choosing something like acting where everyone can watch you try to learn a new craft. I've said before, imagine trying to take up painting. But instead of just painting on a canvas in your own house, you go to the park and invite the whole city to come watch. You're exploring a new art. You're going to make bad, or I shouldn't say bad, but like you're going to make strokes that don't work or choose colors that aren't right. And you have to do that in order to find your vision and know the image that you actually want to create. But acting, I think it's Stella Adler that says acting is like standing in the middle of a crowded room naked. And I've never felt that to be more true than when I've endeavored in this craft and in this journey. Episode 4, Finding My Moxie. As a lifelong people pleaser, moving into this world was super challenging in some regards as well. Yes, I was feeling more alive. I was thrilled. I was so excited to be doing something that activated me so much. I also was facing my own judgment, vulnerability, discomfort. I was also feeling that from external voices as well. I face my own skepticism and I face skepticism from others. I think that anytime we choose to take something that feels like a risk to others, people project their own fears onto it. It may be something that they've wanted to do, but have held themselves back. That makes them voice concerns. We do that to ourselves as well. But I got my full share of that. People saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" I would get little subtle tones like, "Oh, she's a famous actor now," when clearly I was just starting out. People would talk about like going to the red carpet with me. They would ask me questions like, "Oh, so do you just want to be famous?" It was super discouraging. Imagine again, like trying to explore a new art form and people asking you about fame and money. It's just such a curious thing that we have that so deeply attached to this acting world. But as I was thinking about those questions and also feeling this exposure of, wow, I'm trying this new thing and it's so public and people are having their opinions about it, I think my voice inside that I have lived with for so long got even louder at times as well. What will people think? What are you doing? People are going to judge you. Stay small. And I think that there was such a challenge. Like some people would come and say like, oh my God, this is so exciting. You're such a badass. Like, let's go. I've got your back, and then I'd feel the cynicism of others. So I was juggling just this like vast spectrum of public opinion, but I was also dealing with that same existence within me. I had spent a lot of my life staying small, playing small, being nice, fitting in. I spent a lot of my life not bringing unwanted attention to myself. That old people pleaser self inside me was very loud. The freedom I also found in this new exploration and this new way of living was also really thrilling. I was expanding like I never had. We talked about contracting in those, years of having children and devoting my love and attention in life to them. We talked about contracting when I was a caregiver with mom. And for the first time in a while, all mixed with grief and life changes, I was expanding and it felt really good. I wanted to lean into that. I wanted to lean into what was feeling really good about all of this. And I remember thinking in 2019, I was setting big goals for myself and thinking through how I wanted to spend the next year. And I thought, I'm going to choose a word. I had never chosen a word for the year before in my life, but I did that year. And I remember thinking, oh, I know what word I want. It's Moxie. And that means force of nature, a force of character, nerve, and determination. And I remember I've spent so much time thinking about that definition of Moxie because a lot of times people ask me, what does that even mean? And when I think even about force of character, I'm like, it is like knowing and owning who you are and leaning into that. I love that idea of like standing super solid and then leaning into who we are and who we're made to be. Nerve and determination just totally fits in with like taking the risk and like keep going no matter how you might fall or fail or feel embarrassed or, not be the level you want to be at yet. Oh, well, keep going. So I chose that word. I thought I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to force myself to do it. I remember hearing Billie Eilish one time just saying really boldly, judge me. Like she wanted people to judge her. And I thought, oh my God, that's so empowering. Here I am spending my whole life trying to avoid the judgment of others. And this person is welcoming it. And I thought there's something really powerful about that I want to lean into too. Moxie was that for me. It was like, I am going to put myself out there and say, go ahead, judge me. I judge myself hard enough as it is. Like, go ahead, do it. It's not going to hurt me any more than anything I can say to myself. I was shifting from worrying about what others thought to leaning and focusing in on what I truly wanted. And then we all know what happens in 2020, right? The pandemic hits. The world has paused. All of us are forced to contract in this mighty way. I remember thinking about my path and like how I was just thinking Moxie, I was just making all these big goals for myself and now everything is shutting down and feeling smaller. How does that connect? It's so interesting looking back now. We all have our different COVID stories. For me, it was a unique pause on my life and the things that occupied my time. I, in my normal day-to-day life, was running my children around, going to extracurricular activities. Often my day would start really early and not end until 5 or 6 p.m. And that's including my work and juggling all the things I was juggling for them. And all of that paused. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had more time and space to focus on myself and what I wanted. Even despite the lack of ability to be out there in the world doing things, I felt like I had more time to just explore creativity and whatnot. Like most of us, I turned to creative outlets during that time. That was when I made my first short film in 2020. Once they started establishing COVID protocols for film sets, I thought, okay, let's go ahead and try this now. I don't have children's schedules to juggle. I don't have, sadly, all the fun things that kids get to do in high school and middle school where it's like, the dances and the events and whatnot. We weren't doing those things anymore. I had a clear schedule where I could create a film. I think about that a lot. I don't think I would have ever made my first film had it not been for the pandemic shutting everything down, which is a really wild, paradoxical feeling of something really beautiful and good happening in my life while so much trauma and crisis was happening in the world. I also leaned in and connected on social media more. Like a lot of us, we were leaning into video chats and whatnot. I was acting like a total goof. I often think like, it's my job to cheer people up. I turn into that little like performer, silly entertainer type when I think the room is down or low or something. And so the pandemic, that activated me in a big way. I was like, yeah, let's do these goofy social media challenges, like push-up challenges or like what we were all watching Tiger King. I was like, oh, okay, I'll dress up like this crazy lady on this show. We were doing all these funny, silly things. And I just wanted people to remember that we could still laugh and we could still connect and we could still smile. In the middle of that, I remember there was this moment where I was in my kitchen, I was doing dishes and I was dancing to music. And I don't know what got into me, but I was like, why don't I record this and I'll share it? And I recorded it and I put it on my Instagram story and I tagged people and I said, I dare you to dance. I dare you to dance in your kitchen and record it. Like, let's start this thing and like give people a little like emotional boost and move our bodies and feel good for these moments. And even then I was like, oh, you're so stupid. Like I have a really strong, loud, mean girl voice in my head. And I'm sure she thinks she's doing a really good job protecting me from any kind of possible rejection. But woof, man, she gets it wrong so often. Like she thinks that there's a risk when there's not. And there's really deep harm that might happen when there's not. But I have to talk her down a lot. And even in that little post of sharing a dance, I thought, okay, like people are going to judge me, but maybe somebody will feel better from this. So I posted it, squirmy, feeling really uncomfortable inside, thinking like there's no telling what people are going to be saying behind my back. But you know what happened? People messaged me and said that made them smile, that made them feel good, that gave them a boost. Some people danced in response and also posted it. And it felt really good. And so during the pandemic, I think because of that experience, I thought, oh, you know what? What if I got on TikTok? I could learn some dances and that would just be such like a mental health boost for me. It'll like distract me for a few seconds. I'll be really focused on learning choreography. And I remember saying to my kids, like, I'm going to get on TikTok. And of course they're like, Mom, no, don't. I do think TikTok can be like a really difficult place for younger kids. Like it's, there's a lot of like toxic stuff that happens in younger generations. Well, for all of us too, but especially I think the kids who have grown up on this stuff, it can be tougher, but they were like, don't do it. It's so bad. And I was like, no, I don't. One is I don't care. Two, nobody's going to ever know. Nobody will ever know that I get on this app during the pandemic. So I started going on there, finding fun looking choreography, trying to learn it, and I would post it. Some people baked bread through the pandemic. I got on TikTok. So we all do what we need to do, right? So every time I'd get on there and I'd think about posting something, I really feel like this is something that still happens now. People say, oh, you're so brave. Oh, you're so comfortable with social media. You're so good at putting yourself out there. What people don't see is that every time, I really feel like almost every time I first judge myself. I first say, this is dumb. I first think, what will people think? I shouldn't post this. And then I go, oh, there it is again. Now you have to. And so then I make myself do it. Every time I have to go through this process of letting go and letting people judge me, welcoming it, So I'd back in 2020, every time I'd post, I'd be like, okay, Moxie, especially when I would think this is dumb, someone's going to judge you. If I had that thought, I'd be like, now I have to post it because I'm not going to live this way. So there was this moment where I'm having fun on this app. I'm being silly, acting like a child again, which is often where we find our joy, by the way. And I thought, oh, there's this like little like shuffle dance that a lot of people are learning where they go up steps. And I was at my office building and I thought, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to learn that one. In the offices, in this time, like almost nobody was there. I really enjoyed like the quiet solitude of being able to go into an office and not have any risk. And so I went down to the stairwell and I set my phone to record and I started trying to do this dance. I don't know, I was probably on my third or fourth time. I was exhausted, again, super distracted and focused in a really great way for my mental health. And then I hear someone on the steps and I absolutely panic. And I run to my phone and go to turn it off. And I watched it back and I just started dying laughing because the fear on my face was so legitimate of like, oh my God, somebody's going to see me doing this, which is just silliest irony because here I am like recording something that I'm going to put onto a social media platform that the entire world can see, but heaven forbid someone see it in real life. I went to stop it. A man was coming down the stairs. He started laughing. He was like, no, don't let me stop you. And I was like, ha ha ha, like super embarrassed, just frozen. I'm like, no, I wasn't. He was like, what were you doing? And I was like, just making a video for social media. And of course he started dying laughing. And of course I was like super embarrassed. But it was so funny and so real in that moment of getting busted that I thought, you know what? I'm just going to post this. This is funny. Oh, it went viral. Like it popped off. And then I found as time went on, I would have a few videos that would go viral and I didn't know how to process. Here I am on this app where I think I can post and no one in my real life will ever find me. And then I start having videos hitting like 100,000 views and more and higher and higher. And it gets interesting at that level. It gets interesting because eventually, and like TikTok is really known for this, you start getting as much negative as you do positive. So, I'm putting myself out there and I'm getting comments like, you need a nose job or you're old, or why are you on this app? Like whatever people want to say, people constantly like just, project their disgruntled negativity, sadness, anger, whatever on social media onto each other. And, at first I would feel like so flabbergasted, like, oh, someone online was really mean to me. And I remember I would like talk to my family about it. This person said this, what should I say? They're making all these assumptions that aren't true about me, blah, blah, blah. And my daughter was so helpful in this time because I would come back. I'm like legitimately sassy and I think our whole family is super witty. And so I'm like, oh, let's get some zingers. Like, let's get some comebacks. Like, I'm going to clap back and it's going to be so good. And I would think of responses and I would talk to my daughter about it. And she'd be like, Mom, do not give them energy. That is what they want. They don't deserve your energy. And I remember thinking about that when I first started and, you'd hear the negativity and you would want to like respond and defend and like, I don't know, convince some random stranger on the internet that you're not what they think. Why is that worth any of your time? And so I learned in this process to pause and actually choose where my energy can go. I learned that I can spend my energy giving back to those who are trying to do some good in the world, who are being encouraging and kind, and I can give nothing to those who aren't worth spending the time on. I learned a lot. I'd already thought about in my business, in my photography business, there was this idea that, there's this law of repelling and attracting. And it's like, there's this idea that I'm not made to be everybody's photographer. Like not every client is meant to be my client. I'm meant to find the people that are for me and vice versa. And I was experiencing this law of repelling and attracting in a deeper way, and a more, or maybe even a more casual way on social media. It's like, it is fine if somebody, doesn't want to engage with my account. I'd rather them just disengage than like leave negativity. Like, what's the point of that? But meanwhile, any of those things that were happening, I'd noticed how easy it was to get activated towards negativity and like want to spend time like refuting that. But instead, like focusing on the positivity and those who actually would say things like, seeing this gave me hope today. You made me laugh for the first time in a long time. Like, you made me feel less alone. Like, you sharing your story helped me share my story. Like, how can I put a silly dance with me laughing and making fun of myself, make someone tell me that their life was changed because of that? Like, mind blowing. Like, I found myself in tears so often, like connecting with these humans who were like telling me their story. And I was feeling like there was so much hope and there was like so much connectivity, and thinking about this is how we can spend our energy. Like, we can put ourselves online and there can be like this amazing good that happens from it. So what started as a whim, what started as me like trying to investigate something that would give me some joy, distract myself for a few minutes, turned into a full unexpected community. I started seeing some of the same people commenting. I decided there's, the whole like going live on social media, and I had never gone live on any platform before. I was like, why would I do that? That's so much exposure. And I remember thinking, oh, maybe I'll go live with people. We're all like stuck at home anyway. And so I'd go live and I'd think, this is so awkward. I'm just talking out loud and I can't hear anyone respond, which is so funny because that's what I'm doing right now. And I remember thinking on those lives, like, please comment, because I don't want to feel like I'm just blabbering to myself. And I couldn't figure out direction until I did. And one thing I did on my TikTok lives during the pandemic, especially, was I remember one night thinking, I really want to read this book. I also was thinking about going live. And I was like, what if I just read out loud to the community on TikTok? And we did that. I read through a few different books with our community. We read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, which I still love that book to this day. We read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. That's a life-changing book. We read these books aloud, and what was happening is we were encouraging deeper conversations, deeper community. People would join in and listen, and we get to share in the story, share in this learning together. There was so much judgment, honestly. Like, some of my friends were like, so you get on TikTok and you dance? Why do you do that? Like, I mean, even people like saying I was acting thirsty, God forbid. There was so much flack that I was getting, but I knew what I was actually doing, and it made me check in. I knew that my motive was good. I knew my motive was to bring joy. I knew my motive was to do something that felt like truly me. I think that what happened for me is I turned from the girl who spent most of my life staying small and hiding to a person who is willing to show up and be there, present with other people. I was a girl who, I remember in college being terrified to raise my hand to ask a question. I would think of a question in class and I would spend a large portion of that class trying to decide if that question was dumb or okay to ask because I was afraid of looking dumb. I was the person who would try to blend into any social situation that I found myself in. I loved to dance. I've never been trained in dancing. I loved to dance, but I would wait until the dance floor was so packed so no one could see what I was doing. I hated getting my hair cut and showing up to a group and getting that kind of attention. I was behind the camera. I spent all this time in my life shooting other people, helping other people shine, but not giving permission for myself. I remember saying to myself through all these years, I was the yes parent. I was the parent who loved to say yes. And I'm actually just a yes person in general in life. I love to say yes whenever I can. But what I found was I spent a lot of my life saying no to me, holding myself back, not giving myself that permission. And these were the years embracing Moxie and leaning into this was me saying yes to myself. It was me showing up, dancing on a video like a goofball. I call myself adorkable because someone in our community calls me that. Sharing my story, like realizing that it's important for us to be willing to put ourselves out there and share our stories. I'm making movies. I'm speaking into this microphone right now. Even creating this podcast for me is a huge endeavor of wait, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Who is going to care about your silly story? It's not I hear that voice again, talking myself out of it, talking myself down. And I have to lean in and I say, I know my why. I know why I'm here. So even now when I struggle with hesitation or wanting to stop myself from the discomfort of vulnerability, I say yes. I say I'm going to risk the exposure. So much of my journey has been about reclaiming my voice, my own identity, my joy. I've let myself lean in and take more risks. And I've found that often involves and requires a profound faith. To learn more about Wake Up Maggie, visit wakeupmaggiemovie.com. This episode was brought to you by yours truly, Katie Prentiss. Produced and edited by the fabulous Lindsay Guentzel. Our incredible Sunshine Soul theme music was created by the one and only Adam Sweeney. For more resources and transcripts, visit katieprentiss.com. That's Katie, Katie, Prentiss, Prentiss.com.